Welcome to the MOOCs course on Buddhist philosophy, and now we are going to discuss about His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama as a modern Buddhist leader. The objective of introducing His Holiness the Dalai Lama in this course of Buddhist philosophy is to provide a glimpse of his thought, works, teachings, and the impacts that he has made at the global level. He is not only a leader of Buddhism, but also globally respected and influential leader. Keywords: inter-Tibetan arising, nature of reality, emotional regulation, meditation, inner training, cultural identity. His Holiness Tenzin Gyatso is the spiritual leader of the Tibetan people, who describes himself as a simple Buddhist monk. He was born on 6 July 1935 in a simple peasant family of a small village located in Taksir, Amdo province of northeastern Tibet. When he was 2 years old, he was recognized as the reincarnation of the previous 13th Dalai Lama, Thupten Gyatso. The Dalai Lamas are believed to be the manifestation of Avalokiteshvara, who is regarded to be the patron of Tibet. Education in Tibet. Right from his tender age, he was given a rigorous training in the Tibetan educational system, which follows the ancient Nalanda of India and focuses on 5 major fields: Pramana and Nyaya Shastra, logic and epistemology; Abhisamaya Shastra, Buddhist soteriology; Darsana Shastra, Buddhist philosophies; Abhidharma Shastra, Buddhist metaphysics; and Vinaya Shastra, treatises of Buddhist monastic discipline. The training also included various other fields of studies such as poetry, grammar, literature, arts, and others. At the age of 23, he sat for his final examination in the Jogang temple of Lhasa during the Great Prayer Festival Melam Chemo in 1959 and was awarded the Geshe Laramba degree, the highest doctorate in Buddhist philosophy, for his outstanding performance. Leadership responsibilities. Following China's invasion of Tibet in 1950, His Holiness was called upon to assume full political power of Tibet. In 1954, he went to Beijing and met with Mao Zedong and other Chinese leaders, including Deng Xiaoping and Zhou Enlai. In 1959, finally, following the brutal suppression of Tibetan national uprising in Lhasa by the Chinese troops, His Holiness was forced to escape into exile. Since then, he has been living in India, Dharamsala, northern India, as his base. Re-establishment of Tibetan Cultural Foundation in India. Around 7,000 monasteries and temples were destroyed and religious practices were banned in Tibet after the Chinese invasion. It is important to mention His Holiness' multi-pronged efforts for the preservation of the Tibetan culture and its identity, which has contributed immensely to help preserve and promote the heritage of ancient Nalanda of India in today's globalized world, which otherwise would have been wiped out and disappeared in the oblivion. Soon after reaching India, he established schools for Tibetan children, Tibetan settlements in various parts of India, many monasteries in India where the academic learning, the spiritual training could be carried out to ensure the survival of the rich Tibetan cultural heritage. Reforms he brought in the political system of Tibetan diaspora. When we discuss His Holiness being a modern Buddhist leader, it is necessary also to recognize his contributions to establish the Tibetan diaspora in India, which many recognize as the most well-organized, community of refugees in the human history. This successful establishment of a robust Tibetan diaspora community in India has laid the foundation for important developments in education, universally applicable contemplative practices such as mindfulness and compassion, training, social engagement, many of which have significant impact on global well-being. With respect to Tibetan political and administrative system, not only did His Holiness fully democratize the system, he also devolved his power to the elected political leader in 2011, thus ending the temporal power of the Dalai Lamas held through the institution of Ganden Photon for centuries. Since then, he describes himself as being retired. Peaceful initiatives for the resolution of political crisis. He took major initiatives at the international forums for peaceful solution of Tibet. To mention some, on 21st September 1987, in an address to members of the United States Congress in Washington, D.C., His Holiness proposed a 5-point peace plan for Tibet as first step towards a peaceful solution of the worsening situation in Tibet. On 15 June 1988, in an address to members of the European Parliament in Strasbourg, His Holiness further elaborated on the last point of the 5-point peace plan. He has consistently advocated policies of nonviolence, even in the face of extreme aggression. His far-sighted middle-way proposal to China to solve the Tibet issue is appreciated and supported by many countries. His travels and honors received. His Holiness has traveled to more than 67 countries, spanning 6 continents, giving extensive teachings, talks, meeting with state heads, religious heads, renowned scientists, prominent personals of intellectual and public figures. He has received over 150 awards, honorary doctorates, prizes, etc., in recognition of his message of peace, nonviolence, interreligious understanding, universal responsibility, and compassion. He was honored with the Nobel Peace Prize in 1989 for his tireless, peaceful initiatives for the liberation of Tibet. Other notable awards included the U.S. Congressional Gold Medal 2007, the Templeton Prize 2012, and the Liberty Medal 2014. The Tibetan Buddhist tradition he represents. Tibet embraced Buddhism in 7th century AD when Nalanda, Vikramshila, and other great monastic universities were at the peak of their development. Several hundreds of Tibetan youngsters were sent to India to study in those great learning centers, and hundreds of great Indian masters were invited to Tibet to bring the entire traditional systems of knowledge and spirituality. Over a period of several centuries, the Tibetan Lodzawas, translators, with help from Indian Panditas, translated around 1,500 titles of Buddha's teachings and around 3,500 treatises of Indian masters. These translated works were later compiled into 2 canonical collections known as Kangyur scriptures and Tengyur treatises, comprising 120 pothis volumes and 225 pothis respectively. This corpus of Indian Buddhist literature today represents the largest collection of Indian Buddhist texts in the world, with most of the original Indian texts lost in the wake of the destruction of Buddhist monasteries in India in 13th century. In classical Tibetan education system, along with the study of Buddha's teachings, there is a great emphasis on the extensive study of important Indian treatises, especially pertaining to philosophy of various Buddhist schools, principally the four main schools, Vaibhashika, Sautantrika, Vijnanvada and Madhyamika, including their sub-schools. The views of other Indian schools such as Sankhya, Vaisheshika, Nyaya, Mimamsa, Vedanta and Jaina are studied primarily within the framework of Darsana philosophical systems studies. There's also rigorous study of logic, Nyaya and epistemology, Pramana, developed especially by Tignaka and Dharmakirti and their commentators. Tantra is also a major field of study and practice which includes sophisticated spiritual systems of the four tantric schools, Kriya Tantra, Charya Tantra, Yoga Tantra and Anuttara Yoga Tantra. All the above-mentioned domains of studies have comprehensive literature translated from Indian languages, primarily from Sanskrit. Tibetan scholars have also authored extremely large corpus of literature in all the fields of studies.